Welcome to Bears on Tap, hosted by Quentin Q. Crisco, Samir Patel, Sonny Verma, and the one and only Ron Luce. Bringing you all the news, analysis, and opinions on the charter franchise, Chicago Bears.
No, it is not a dream. No, you are not sitting here wondering what happened on Saturday night and not being able to recall it. You recall just fine, everybody. Because yes, the Chicago Bears not only won a football game, but vanquished the Green Bay Packers at Soldier Field in epic fashion in front of a ruckus crowd as well. Talk about a perfect way to get the weekend rolling in full steam going into Sunday morning. I am Ron Luce. I am joined by Samir Patel and the one and only Mr. Sonny Verma. Gentlemen, I don't even know where to start. It's kind of fun being able to wake up and be in a good mood and not have to stress about football today outside of maybe a couple of parlay bets and some fantasy matchups. But initial thoughts, initial reactions, how are we feeling? Not even shit, we're what? Maybe not even 10 hours yet clear of the end of that football game. Is the adrenaline still high? Were you able to sleep? Because I'm sure there are people that did not sleep yet. How are you guys feeling?
I think the Bears purposely waited a little longer to post that good, better, best video yesterday because I refused to go to bed until I got to watch that. And I don't think it was posted until after midnight. But yesterday was just one of those games. This is just one of those teams that's going to take years off my life, and I don't regret it for 1 second. I'm going to enjoy this ride. You can't turn this team off no matter what, and I can't wait to talk about that game with you guys.
100%. Samir, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. Like Sonny said, that's incredible. I felt like, I don't know, like Sonny said, you just can't turn this team off. And I'll just say this once, and I'm not going to say it again. I was very impressed with that Packers team, though. With everything that they've gone through and continued to go through as that game went on, that is a very impressive football team. And dare I say, I'd be happy if we didn't have to see them again this year. But that's out of the way. Awesome job by the Bears. Way to stay with it. Way to be tough physically, mentally, emotionally, whatever you want to say. This team just doesn't have an off switch. Love it.
Yeah, no off switch indeed. And again, gentlemen, I'll tell you a little story because this is how I'm feeling this morning. Good morning, Brittany. Yes, you are the first one here. At least you're the first one in the comment section. If you want to join the conversation, just like Brittany here, be sure to jump in on YouTube or Facebook or even X and let us know what's going on in your head. I'll tell you what, I have a lot of pessimistic Bears fans in my life. A lot of them, almost a borderline unhealthy amount of them sometimes. And specifically my cousin, I'm going to put him on the spot. He's going to appreciate it, but I'm going to put him on the spot. My cousin Eric, he lives in Atlanta, but he's a diehard Bears fan, lives and dies with the team, has been for his entire life. And as soon as the fourth down play happened yesterday, I'm getting, oh, here we go. Oh, why are we not doing this? Oh, what is this? All this silly, goofy nonsense. And just watching the negative and the text message chain. And then at the very end, he's like, I'm like, you're part of the problem. And he's like, how can you blame me? Like this team, blah, blah. I'm like, just, you're part of the problem. If you're not believing in this Ben Johnson Bears team yet, I don't know what else they have to fucking do to get you to believe. And then they come back and I'm gonna print it, I'm gonna frame it, and I'm gonna put it right here. And it just says, okay, I'll shut the fuck up. Let's fucking go in all capital letters. Only for me to respond, fuck you 3 times in all capital letters. That was the type of Bears game, though. It really was a tale of two ways of watching. Either you were glued all the way to the end because you're just a sicko and you like self-torture. Most Bears fans. And then there were the percentage of Bears fans that said, you know what? I'm going to turn it off. maybe a little reverse psychology. Maybe they'll come back. But to your guys' point, this team doesn't quit. And I don't think that's ever something, at least in my lifetime, that we have seen from a Chicago Bears team, right? We've seen the versions of these teams where they find every reason to lose a football game. Instead, this team is finding ways to win a football game. Nick DeMeo has the recap coming out this morning. He's a beautiful writer. And the title of his recap today is 0.9% chance, 100% belief. The Bears had a 0.9 chance, statistically speaking, in this football game of winning. Late. And they won. It's fucking cool, man. Like, there's no other way to put it. It really is kind of a storybook game. Like this Bears game, in terms of Bears-Packers lore, is up there with the Chris Conte, Randall Cobb moment, is up there with the BJ Raji, pick six, is up there with all these, the Khalil Mack pick six in the 2018 first game, like the Eddie Jackson pick to seal the game. Like those big highlights that we think of as Bears fans from this rivalry in our lifetimes. That play of watching Caleb just unleash and watching DJ fight through his man to come down with the football, like that's going to be on every Bears Packers highlight reel for the rest of our lives sitting here. That's how important last night's game was to not only just the Bears, but this rivalry and this storied, recaps and highlights that go into the NFL's oldest rivalry.
I think you're exactly right. Like that was a chapter that was written in the next edition of this rivalry between the Chicago Bears and the Green Bay Packers. The Ben Johnson era, the Caleb Williams era, that's going to be a couple pages in it. It's one of those, you talk about, how they win is one thing. But as you mentioned, Ron, we've lost those games 95% of my entire life. So I'm not going to sit here and apologize to other fan bases for the ball actually bouncing our way. And it's not even necessarily that. We've got a quarterback making plays. Okay, it's one thing if, it's a fumble here and there. No, it's a team making plays, and that's what's happening. And, Green Bay, I think we earned respect a couple weeks back after the beatdown that we put on the Eagles in Philadelphia. But now, like, it's not a fluky team anymore. You can't say that because Green Bay is as Samir said, a very sound, good football team. And this was a game that, ultimately, like, you never felt out of. There was frustration. You can tell the Bears weren't playing well, but it wasn't like the Green Bay Packers were out of your league. And we've never really felt that all season long, except for maybe one game that just got out of hand.
Yeah, well said. It really has been gladiator match after gladiator match. Samir?
I think it's fun to watch this Bears team because it's different, like Sonny mentioned with those other teams. Normally when the Bears get in their own way, they have really no chance of winning. And they were, let's be real, gentlemen. The first game was a tale of two halves, right? This game was a tale of 3 quarters and 10 minutes versus the rest of the game, right? I don't know what happened in that. There was a lot of things that had to change, but they did, right? The Bears had no business, honestly, if you look at it from the box score standpoint of winning that game. They were awful on third down. They got dominated on time of possession. They had over 100 yards of penalties, like 60 yards in roughing penalties, like they got outcoached, in my opinion, for most of the game. And dude, but the thing is, you let this Bears team stay close. They have the horses and the juice to turn it on at any given moment. And you got to be careful. You can't back him into a corner because if you back Caleb into a corner, that's when Iceman comes out, right? And that's when he's just going to start wheeling and dealing. And this team is so dangerous because they have the ability to do things like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you guys mentioned it too. And I'll tell you what, and in real time, when you're watching, you kind of don't always do the best of absorbing kind of statistical information, is the way I put it. Usually you have to wait till after the game, then you go back and you're like, oh shit, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Like I totally didn't realize that they actually did that. To Sonny's point, I too waited until Good, Better, Best came out because I think every Bears fan did last night. And 0 for 5. The defense kept the Packers 0 for 5 in the red zone. I mean, talk about bend, don't break. Talk about, hey, they know what they want to do against us, and they're going to try to execute that. But son of a bitch, when they get inside the 20-yard line, don't you dare give in. And they didn't. A turnover on downs. Really just the one chip shot field goal late in the game for McManus. The turnover, which was massive, even though they didn't get points out of it, that was huge to at least slow the momentum for Green Bay in that moment and keep them out of the end zone once again. Just impressive bend, don't break defense all night long from the Bears. And then Chase Daniel already put out a little breakdown last night. I don't know if anybody see it yet. Sonny's nodding in approval here. Big shout out to the former Bears backup quarterback. But it came down to two really big throws from Caleb, and just how it almost feels like the whole game, Ben Johnson was setting up for those moments, right? Like everything he runs is with a purpose. Even if we don't like it, I'm sure that fourth down will have some purpose later on. Even when we don't like it, because then you get one-on-one where Ja'Day Walker is able to slip in behind two defenders and he's wide open for a touchdown on fourth down to tie the game with 24 seconds left. And then knowing that the Bears all night long, every time they bring three tight ends out, however that looks, whether that's the I form like it was on the final play, whether it's that beautiful pistol full house look that I love so damn much. I'm so happy they bring it back and run it often. But they got the shell coverage they wanted. The safeties bit down and bit hard on play action, and you get your one-on-one matchup with DJ. Like DJ even said it in the post game. We got that look, in practice, and we worked on it all week, and that's the look we were hoping for. And son of a bitch, we got it. Like, that's great game planning. We got the look we were waiting for, and they were able to capitalize with a big play. This Bears team, to me, I think other teams around the league look and go, I really don't want to see those guys when everything's on the line, because no matter how bad they play, for as long as the part of the game as they will, as long as they're within striking distance, you cannot count them out. And there's nothing more terrifying to an opposing coach than a team that just doesn't go away.
And I also want to mention, it wasn't, predominantly for the last 5 minutes, it was a lot of Caleb and it was a lot of DJ Moore. But I think what makes this victory so satisfying, especially the morning after, now reflecting on everything, that victory was brought to you by all three facets of your team. The defense had a really solid game. 16 points in 4 quarters is a really solid performance against that Green Bay Packers team. Then you had the special teams make a play when you needed the special teams to make a play. And then, we've already discussed, and I'm sure we're going to talk more about Caleb Williams and, the final 4 or 5 minutes where all of a sudden he just turned into the guy that we've been hoping for in a Bears uniform our entire lives. But, as you said, other teams, whether the Bears are at the level to be ready to win a Super Bowl or not, there's not a single team out there that wants to be within one score or only up one score against the Bears at the end of a football game, because we've put enough tape out there to show that this team can get it done. And it's not just the offense. The defense can make a play if you need the defense to make a play. And yesterday we saw that the special teams can make a play when we need the special teams to make a play.
And Sonny, quickly with the special teams, I don't think it can go understated. That wind was a nightmare yesterday. And Cairo Santos booted some long field goals in that wind. Like, I know we've dogged on Cairo on this show this season. I know other Bears fans have dogged on Cairo this season. But I'll tell you what, there's a reason they keep the son of a bitch as the kicker. And it's because he, better probably than anybody else in the league, is really good at Soldier Field. And that is so critically important on a night like last night. They showed the Gatorade cups flying around on the field. They showed, the everything, flying out of the stands because of the wind. You saw even on the Jordan Love throw to Christian Watson that ultimately went incomplete. That 20-yard throw was affected by the wind. And you had Cairo booting 40-plus and 50-plus yard field goals last night. That's also just as critically important. But agreed. Talk about coming through the onside team, Blackwell, who continues to be an ace special teamer, the reason he keeps getting a job with this team, and that guy just keeps stepping up when they need him most. I'll tell you what, gentlemen, I once upon a time in my lifetime, I played some collegiate football, and I always wondered why we focused so much on special teams in practice. I've watched a lot of football now to be able to say that special teams will bite you in the ass or will win you football games. And that happens a lot. Look at the Los Angeles Rams. 3 of their 4 losses are because their special teams unit just went to shit. And they just fired their special teams coordinator on Friday morning after that Thursday night game. You need all 3 phases to click. And for the Bears to get all 3 phases, to your point, Sonny, was critically important. Samir.
I want to touch on something that Sonny said about that defensive performance, 16 points to the Packers. When you're looking at it in real time, you're like, oh God, Wilson's popping off 5 yards a carry. They can't contain Malik Willis. What are we doing? I just want to talk about how impressive it is for Dennis Allen, still getting some horses back, but you're prepping all week for one type of quarterback. And now you have to play a totally different type of quarterback. And yes, Matt LaFleur's game plan might change a little bit, but now your defensive game, you have to adjust for this guy that can run. And to be able to do that on the fly the way that they did in the second half and limit, Malik Willis is not a rookie, right? That's coming in, or a second-year player that you're like, oh, good, we'll just blitz the crap out of him and confuse him. He'll lead to turnovers. No, Malik Willis has been around in this league, and he's got some wheels, and he's a different type of quarterback than Jordan Love. Jordan Love is obviously a better quarterback. I'm not saying Malik Willis is better than Jordan Love. I'm just saying he's a different type of player, and the plays that the Packers are going to run, you didn't necessarily game plan for. So I just want to point out, it is impressive what they were able to do on the fly to a quarterback that they didn't even game plan for.
Absolutely. I even said that in real time, Samir, last night watching it. I was fortunate enough to watch it with a large group of friends, and I remember looking over, including my wife, and I remember looking over at her, and I was just like, they were not ready for Malik Willis's athleticism. You're not, because you're not game planning for that all week. So you're 100% right. The comments are blowing up, but we got to get to this one first because it's very, very relevant here. Tennessee owes Malik Willis an apology. Tennessee owes a lot of people an apology, and Mike Vrabel included. And that team is just a mess. But just to kind of fly through some of the comments here: go Bears, monsters at the midway. Caleb Williams MVP, DJ Moore, thanks Carolina. Green Bay sucks. Of course, Green Bay sucks. They did smash Jordan Love last night. I'm curious to see how long he's out now, if that's really serious. Because he also dipped his head in Austin Booker. I don't feel that terrible, but I'm not going to root for injuries. DJ beat the guy who cheap shotted him on the game winner. You love that. Yeah, that's a great point. Early in the game, he takes one right in the back, and then he gets his revenge. We've got some reminders of the old 85 Bears. Our boy showed it Cubs. This is our boy, Mr. Joey Ricotta. I'm still riding high, like very few times that he can remember. He says this might be the greatest Bears moment of his life. And they really reeled off 19 points after being down 13-3. Still have a shot at the 1 seed. Last game's 49ers and Lions. And then Santos has the leg of strength of a 14-year-old, but son of a bitch, he has made some big kicks. Yes, he has. And yeah, Janae Walker, also a great player. So a shout out to everybody jumping in the comments this early in the morning. Guys, I think that's kind of the other thing quickly here. Obviously, we have our other segments that we'll get to in just a few minutes. But those were kind of the couple of other little things I wanted to talk about really quick. Janae Walker stepping up in absence of both Luther Burden and Roma Dunze. That just shows the depth that this team has. And what a story that Janae Walker is. Like, this guy was severely overlooked coming out of college because they were a very run-heavy offense, and they didn't really utilize him properly in college, but he was a good football player, and the Bears said, hey, let's bring this kid into camp, undrafted free agent, whatever, and has the preseason of all preseasons, right? This guy balled out when it mattered most, makes the team, and then we don't see him all year, and everybody's like, what happened to Janae Walker? And what when you got two injuries in the receiving core and they got to elevate a receiver off the practice squad, that dude's going to get a look. And again, just talk about coming up huge in a big moment like that. That's an undrafted rookie not, a guy that went undrafted 5 years ago and has just bounced around the league. He is just as new to this as anybody else. And to also then hear, Caleb in his press conference after the game talk about the chemistry he and Walker have, even though he's, again, an undrafted rookie. He stayed with Caleb when he was looking for a place in Chicago. And it just, there's so much camaraderie of this Bears team. These guys truly do like each other. And that's such a, I know a lot of people are like, well, they're pros. They don't have to like each other, whatever. Yeah, but when they do, it makes the culture aspect of this team so much easier. And then it allows for guys like that to elevate in moments like that. And that touchdown catch was huge. And he knew where he was. The footwork was incredible. And then, of course, we got to see the dance afterwards, too, which in that moment felt really, really good as a Bears fan watching.
Breaks my brain watching that touchdown dance.
I know. It breaks my brain every time, too.
I don't understand. But, Ron, just to kind of piggyback on what you're saying, that play, that 4th and 4, Caleb has to have at least an ounce, a level of trust that Walker's going to be at that spot. Because if you freeze the frame when he's about to throw the ball, Walker's not there yet. So Williams literally threw it to a section of the end zone. Walker makes that play. And again, we keep repeating ourselves, but it's the chemistry, it's the trust, it's knowing that guys that haven't made the plays in previously, or maybe they haven't gotten the opportunities is a better way to phrase it, will be there because this team is prepared. And that is a lot on coaching. I think this coaching staff, Ben Johnson talked about it a lot in the post-game press conference. There's a belief in that locker room. And, it doesn't have to be Roman Dunze. It doesn't have to be Luther Burden. It doesn't have to be DJ Moore. It could be an undrafted rookie that when his name is called, he'll be there and he'll make that play for you.
Yeah, and talk about an elite throw as well. On the run, and Caleb just gets it off. I kind of like this comment here from BCJ. It says Caleb Williams is the Steph Curry of the NFL. It really does feel that way sometimes, the way he throws the football. Just always off balance, but he's got the arm talent, and of course he's got the Iceman in him in order to take care of business. Samir, anything else you want to add here before we start bleeding into our normal segments?
No, I just love that you guys gave some love to Jade Walker, who feels like maybe the DeMarco Jackson of the offense, right? The guy that kind of steps up and makes a play, right? When other guys in front of him go down. So I'm happy for that guy. I love to see him get a game ball there at the end in the locker room. I like Ben also saying, Caleb, I love you. But you're not getting a game ball. And I think it's cool the way Ben does that because, obviously Caleb was a big reason that they won that game. But I do feel like Ben almost shies away from sometimes the captains or the big guys on the team because he wants to bring those other guys to the forefront and show them love and get them in the middle of that locker room. And I really like the way he does that, so.
Definitely. And that's a sign of great leadership too. And that's just understanding your team and understanding. And that's a quarterback and a coach being on the same page too. I'm sure he tells Caleb routinely when they meet, hey man, I know what you're capable of. I'm never gonna not give you that love and credit. Just understand that, when we got guys stepping up after these wins and there's game balls on the line, it might not always go your way. And that's not a shot at you. It's an appreciation for everybody else on the field.
Yeah.
I will also note this. You mentioned just with Jade Walker and in the locker room after and everything like that, and as a part of the good, better, best, and Caleb, this one's not for you. You just you continue to feel just how crazy the culture is right now in that locker room, and it's just so much fun to watch. I'm really, really genuinely enjoying seeing that when it's all said and done. So I had another thought, and I won't even sit here and lie to you. It kind of escaped me. So I'll come back to it if time allows for it. But
Ron, I did have another thought. Just talking about what we were talking about. Maybe your thought will come back. Is talking about not giving Caleb the game ball. I also wonder if that's kind of gamesmanship on Ben Johnson in the sense where when you have a 4-year-old and they do something that you're really proud of, you want to encourage it. You did a great job. Maybe Ben is at the point with Caleb where like he wants this to be the expectation. Like Caleb, we're not going to reward you, congratulate you on every great performance you have because we know that's who you are. And, on a day like yesterday where you did have other guys, I do think that maybe there's also a side purpose of, this is just what Caleb does. And, in a way, that in itself is going to build the confidence in a guy like Caleb Williams that they know I'm going to make the plays when needed. It's not congratulatory. That's the expectation moving forward.
1,000%. 1,000%. And just really quickly here, I think this kind of sums up of why this Bears team is just so much fun right now. BCJ says here, he goes back to that 85 season as a kid watching the Bears and just how much fun that was. I really do think there's a large majority of Bears fans that with this team are either getting remnants of those old teams, even just from the 80s in general. Like there were a lot of great Bears teams in the 80s, even the ones that didn't win Super Bowls. But also, for some of us, like this is probably one of the best iterations of the Bears in our lifetime. Like, yeah, the 18 team was fun, but they were kind of flash in the pan if you really looked at it. The defense really led that team, which felt very true of Bears football, right? You can make the same argument about that, 06 and 07 Super Bowl team, right? The defensive special teams lead them there. The offense was very much kind of an afterthought. This is the first time where like the offense has been the primary catalyst of a Bears team. Like, so even when you do think back to the 85 Bears, like that 85 Bears team, like the offense was good, but like the defense was one of the greatest of all time, right? It's considered, that's the defense that people compared to. What are they? The 85 Bears, right? Like there's a reason those expressions exist. We've never seen an iteration that's been led by the offense like this. So again, that just kind of makes it a lot of fun as well. Gentlemen, let's get into it.
The baddest man.
The baddest man. There were a few bad men in blue and orange on Saturday. But Samir, starting with you, my good sir, who is your baddest man?
So I think there's one obvious choice here. I'll stay away from it because we already talked about him kind of already at length with Cairo Santos. I think he was actually the MVP, for most of the game, kicking in those conditions, things like that. We talked a lot about all these other guys, but I'm going to go with one guy we haven't talked about yet, just for the sake of conversation, and that's Shawnee Wright. How can you keep this guy off the field, man? He makes these plays in moments where you like gotta have them. When you're like that guy and you're sitting on the couch and you're like, we need a turnover here. He's that guy, right? That does that. And and you talk about 0 for 5 in the red zone. The defense was able to keep the Packers out of the end zone. Shawnee was a big part of that, right? That Josh Jacobs fumble definitely helped seal that game away. And I think on a night where you needed every single possession and you needed to keep him out of the end zone, I'm going to go with an underdog here. I mean, he wasn't the baddest man. I'm not saying he was the best player by any means. I just feel like that guy needs some love because he just seems to be in the right spot at the right time and making plays for us every week. So I'm going to give some love to Nashawn Wright.
I'll tell you what, Samir, a bad man is certainly a guy that shows up in the right moments when you need a big play. And that is Nashawn Wright. It has been all season long. And once again, almost on cue, he comes through again. I mean, what is that now for him? 10 turnovers forced?
9 or 10, something like that. Yeah.
Between forced fumbles and interceptions. And you know that Peanut Tillman is somewhere smiling every time he sees Nashawn Wright punch out a football. Like he's just sitting there in his recliner, kicked back, watching the Bears, probably sipping like some tea or something. And he's just, oh yeah, that's nice to see, especially in blue and orange, right? Because they'll always talk about the peanut punch when it's anybody but the fucking Bears.
Yeah.
It's cool to see what it is the Bears involved. Sonny, who's your baddest man?
I just want to pick like Nashawn Wright. He's going to be one of the stories of this football team. Like even in years moving forward, when we talk about how good that 2025 Chicago Bears team was, he's one of the stories that just kind of exemplifies it. So I'm glad he did get some love. But again, there's so many choices here, and you threw me off a little bit, Samir, by taking right, because now I feel like I'm obligated to use either one of the two main ones. I'll go with DJ here. I did want to get, originally I was going to go with Cairo Santos, just because he kept us within that one score, or putting points up on the board in conditions that were not easy, not ideal. So maybe we can just make him like a runner-up for this category. But DJ, a lot of the pressure was on him on this game with Luther out, with Roma Dunze out. He gets hit hard in that first quarter. He gets off the field. And then, I mean, you scroll Bears Twitter, there's a lot of people angry. Like, the offense simply wasn't getting the job done. And when it needed to get the job done, DJ Moore ultimately finished with what? I think a touchdown, 97 yards on 5 catches. When a play needed to be made, Caleb knew he could throw it up there and DJ would come down and get it on a play, which was clearly pass interference as well. No flags on the field. I mean, big shocker there. But, DJ needs some love because he's gotten a lot of, I don't know if hate's the right word, but a lot of question marks from this Chicago Bears fan base. But in a game where you absolutely needed him to come through because your 2 other targets were gone, he did when it mattered. And so, bad man, that DJ Moore.
DJ Moore is a bad man. I'll tell you what, as an avid DJ Moore fan over my entire lifetime, like I've liked him since he was in Carolina, and there's a sick article out there somewhere on ontapsportsnet.com about 6 months before that trade happening of me expressing that the Bears should go trade for DJ Moore. When you need him the most, he's stepped up, and that's huge. And I'll tell you what, nobody's enjoying this more than DJ Moore, right? We talked about it a little bit after last week's show as well, where like this poor guy hasn't had a winning season since high school as a football player. And he's been in the league for what, 8-9 years already? I mean, it's been a long time. And that includes college too. 3 years at Maryland, they fucking sucked. And just he's, that guy's enjoying winning football, and especially being a big part of said winning football. Really over the last 2 weeks now has had huge performances, even, with no Rome against Cleveland and no Luther and Rome against Green Bay. He delivers when it matters most. Quickly here from the comments, BCJ, Caleb Williams. Yeah, Iceman's a bad man. And I think we can all agree upon that one. Guys, I'm also going to go a little bit off the beaten path here in terms of my baddest man pick. And again, I always love watching the special teams get highlighted. Love it. I think it's such a critical part of football that nobody, I think, fully understands unless you've either played the game or you've just watched and consumed enough football to truly understand what's going on. Cairo was great. And we talk about the field goals and kicking in that weather. But heart and hustle defines you as a special teams player. Josh Blackwell just continues to do everything right on special teams for this team. Just continues to do everything right. And this was a guy that, to BCJ's point here, good move by Ryan Poles. Hell yeah, it was. I know they're talking about DJ in the comments, but so was Josh Blackwell. He was one of those 7 waiver wire additions in his first year in 2022 for the Bears. Claimed him off waivers. And this guy has completely just become the stalwart special teamer that the Bears need, whether it's returning the kick last year at Lambeau in Green Bay for them to win that game and kind of come into 2025 with a level of, kind of swagger, I guess I'll call it, and getting a demon off their back of winning at Lambeau. So then when you needed them most, we got to have this onside. And who comes up with it from the bottom of the pile other than Josh Blackwell? It's a bad dude. He knows his role in the NFL. He's going to make a couple $1,000,000 every year doing it. But as long as he continues to do that shit, he's going to have a job in Chicago. He's going to have a job anywhere in the NFL. That's a bad dude, and that dude needs appreciation as well. So I'm gonna go with Josh Blackwell as my pick, and as BCJ says here, Blackwell off the chain, absolutely. The things you gotta love and see. One quick comment here before we keep this thing moving from our good friend Joey Riccoti. He says, "I'm so happy for DJ, man. Has barely gotten the ball thrown his way this season. People think he fell off. He's been open most of the year. Kept grinding through the dirty hit early and hurting his back." And he says also DJ was completely gas in the fourth quarter, like Brady was saying. Yeah, he was, and taking care of business, things you absolutely love to see. Gentlemen, we'll keep this thing moving along.
The nicest man.
I ain't even going to sit here and lie to you. I really just wanted to see the puppy more than anything else. I really, it's nice to keep us level, right? And then talk about the nicest man. But when you look back at a game like this, even with them losing for a majority of the game, unless you guys have one for me, I can't really think of one player that like stood out as the nicest man, because even guys that you would want a dog on, I think of the Montez Sweats, right? Or those type of players, like all of those guys came through and made a play when they needed it. Montez makes the big sack toward the end of the game to make sure Green Bay doesn't get anything before we go to overtime. And, just the defensive backs, like nobody was getting egregiously beat all night. The shell coverage was there. Maybe TJ Edwards, but even Edwards is flying around in the run game and making plays. If you guys have one, let me know. But I'm happy just to play the puppy video, puppy video for this week, because it's hard to find one of those when it's this type of victory for your Chicago Bears.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Like, as a unit for 55 minutes, I had some frustrations that the Bears D-line just couldn't get to the Green Bay quarterback, no matter who it was. But as you mentioned, kind of like the rest of the team, with 5 minutes left when the game was on the line, everyone did their job. And so I'm with you. Talking about individual performances that I think were lacking. Even Dahlman had that snap that went over Kyle Monangai's head. But again, I think that was such a special circumstance that I'm not really holding that against him either. So I'm with you. I'm always in for more puppy videos.
I can be the bad guy here a little bit. We did get shut out at halftime. So I think there were people that struggled in individual moments of the game. Zacchaeus comes to mind, another humongous drop, right? Across the middle. Got to have that play, especially when you're down 2 receivers. You need to be able to count on that guy. I know he had some catches in the game, so it's not like he went over. And Ron, maybe the tape will show this when you and Q break it down, but I thought Jonah Jackson struggled at times again with the stunts. I don't know. I felt like there was a little bit more pressure than I was expecting to see in that first half. And it looked like Jackson was the guy trailing, but it's not my area of expertise. You guys will probably break that down. And then the safeties, I don't know. I thought Byard looked like he was a little late on some of the coverages. But here, I'm just kind of like the notes that I had written down a little bit. But, they got the win, so it is what it is. But I think that there were guys that had individual moments that I thought were a little rough for them. But like you guys said, the win's a win, and the puppy is always great. So
the puppy is always great. I'll tell you what, though, Samir, I think that's a great way of defining it for this game. Like, it wasn't necessarily one player maybe having like a horrendous game, but there were certainly moments that when you look back at the tape over a full game, like I will admittedly probably go back and rewatch this full game in some capacity, probably in the all 22, because that's my preferred method of watching football most days. But I'll 100% go back and to your point, probably have those moments of that was not a good block by so and so, or the Zacchaeus drop was one that immediately came to my mind as well. Because that was kind of a momentous drive for them. They were getting some movement going, a couple short little first downs, and that's a big one that keeps the chains moving if they're able to get it. They didn't at the moment. And it just ends up being that way. But yeah, as Joey said here, the little puppy video kills me. Hey, it's fun, man. It's so good. I love it. You did such a good job with it. He also said here, he says if we can do the first half nicest man's Ben Johnson, maybe the cute fourth down play is a great example of that. Maybe just some of the game planning in general, but turned back into the baddest man in the second half. And I'll tell you what, gentlemen, I know I say it a lot on this show, but any first-time listeners, you get to hear it for the first time. Good football teams can execute a week game plan from, 3-4 days of practice and get the looks they want and see and call an offense and score points and take a lead into the half. That's what good football teams do. Great football teams can have a bad first half, go into the half, say, this is what we're going to fix. This is what we want to do. This is what we want to attack, because of that level of detail and just, I guess, knowledge absorption, I'll call it for lack of a better term, throughout the course of the first half. And they make the adjustments and they win the second half. That's what great football teams do. And we've seen the Bears do that a fuck ton this season as a great football team.
I want to make a point about that. The adjustments are huge because it's not like you have time to make new plays or put a new offense in. You get what, maybe 8 to 10 minutes,
They're about
less than that, to say like, okay, here are the plays we're going to take out because they're not working. Here's the plays that we've already practiced and used in other games and other scenarios that we're going to put in. And to be able to take those and put them in with confidence, to be like, these were the ones that were backup plays that we might not use. I trust my team to run this because we've been practicing them all week. Maybe not this week, but maybe in other weeks past when we saw something in a different team's defense, right? In that 7 to 8 minutes to make those kinds of adjustments is very impressive.
Definitely. And that's why that's so important. So, from experience, my experience of just being around it, and I'm sure, there's 17 different ways to skin a cat, right? But it really is like everybody trots off the field, halftime clock starts, the coaches go and they meet, and it's, what are we seeing? And they'll go through, hey, this play or this, we're not getting this look for this concept that we wanted to attack all week. We're not seeing it. We want to run the, we want to do this and run this and attack this coverage. Hey, we're getting that coverage. So we're going to come back to that later in the second half. Well, we're doing this, we're attacking this. Hey, I noticed they're doing this against this look. We didn't see that last time. Let's try to attack that if we see that again. Maybe that's a building in a check or something like that into the play call if we get that look against X. And then it's, you go back and you meet with the team and you kind of talk through all those. Then it's, Caleb, if you see this look on these type of plays, we can kill Can out of that. We can go to this, or we can do that. And, hey, line, the line coach is sitting there. Hey, guys, we got to keep doing this. We got to keep bullying ball. Hey, if you're having trouble with this, let's combat that. Let's talk more, etc. Receivers, hey, all right, clean up the drops. Let's do this. Hey, just remember, if we get this look right, when you're running, it might be something like, hey, when you're running that in route, and you see them sitting that shell coverage, we know we've been telling you all week to get to 15 yards. We might need you to cut it off at 12 so you're able to get in front of those safeties. Like, it's little details like that that are then shared. And then it's, all right, break, let's go win a fucking football game. It is quick. It is fast. That 15 minutes flies by. So that's why it is so impressive when these good teams, and again, there's other teams in the NFL that do it as well, but when they can make those second half adjustments and come back and attack a team based on what they saw during the week in terms of game planning, and then what they're seeing that's new, it's really something special to see. Quick comment here from Raul. Romeo catches the onside kick. Packers run the clock. Game is over. Bears got lucky, but it was a good game. Good luck against the Niners. Good luck against I don't know who they play next, admittedly. But I'll tell you what. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. And that's just the nature of the beast, man. I'll tell you what, we've been Bears fans long enough to know, and Sonny, I think you said this like in the first 5 minutes of the show today. I'm not going to apologize for the ball bouncing the right way for the Bears, because we've been on the other end of that spectrum for a long time. So it's nice to see. It's nice to see when it's all said and done to be able to accumulate that. Gentlemen, we'll move on to our final section here.
Keys to victory.
This is going to be a weird keys to victory. Like, I'm just forewarning everybody, because I've already read the keys to victory and I went, they didn't do any of those, but they still won the football game. So we're going to have some fun with this. The first one here, gentlemen, was establish offensive line dominance early. Sonny, I'll let you start. You're shaking your head. I'm in agreement with you. Talk me through it.
I mean, I guess when you take a look at the final rushing numbers, it's not too bad. DeAndre had 13 for 58. Manungai had 9 for 50. both over 4.5 yards. But I mean, I think in a lot of ways, the running game kind of was working, especially on that first drive. And then I think we might have just abandoned it a little bit too early. But there's no way. We've seen what a dominant performance looks like, and we see it from this team every single week. I think there were, again, I have to rewatch the game now as an analyst as opposed to a fan, as I was watching it yesterday. And of course, I'm going to be watching your guys' O-line show later on this week. But I think it was probably at best an average performance.
Yeah, it really did feel average. I think, again, there were moments, right? I think that was kind of going back to how we approached Nicest Man. There were moments where, the O-line looked dominant, whether it was on certain run plays and things like that. I think overall, the protection did a good job of holding up for the most part. Again, credit to Green Bay, without Micah Parsons still being able to scheme up pressure as well as they did. Like, Caleb was running for his life early and often in this game. And it really felt very similar to, that of the past couple weeks, right? And what we saw up in Green Bay. So I agree. I think average is okay. You'll take average if it means a win, but definitely was not the dominance per se that the Bears were looking for. The second key, start fast, play with a lead. Samir. They didn't start fast, and
No, the only time they led was when the game was over. So, and starting fast, 0 points. Going into the half was not great. So I don't know how you can say they've achieved any of those keys. Yeah, it's not really much more to say other than that they didn't come out the way they needed to. And I think the first drive was great, right? You're looking at it, you're like, holy crap, this is going to be fun. We're cooking. Caleb's getting outside the pocket, throwing on the run. And then that wonky kind of fourth down call, which I think everybody on their couches was just like, just give it to Monangai. Just give it to Monangai. Like, because you could tell Swift it was hampering him a little bit, that groin injury. He's still, man, what a gutty performance from that guy. I've gone complete 180 on DeAndre Swift. At the beginning, I was like, man, we should have signed this guy. We should have traded for Breece Hall, whatever the case is. And now I'm like, dude, this guy he's got heart, man. He's got heart on that offense. And still, give it to one of those two guys. Do a normal play, right? I think we all love Ben scheming it up, but sometimes you're like, just do a normal play. And then after that, the sails kind of got taken out of the winds, I think, for them. And they just couldn't get out of their own way, whether it was a holding call, intentional grounding, whatever the case was, they just couldn't seem to get going. And then I don't know, I was meaning to look this up, but I forgot to, I don't know when the last time a Ben Johnson led offense put up a goose egg in a half before, but I never ended up looking that up, but I don't think it was, I think it's an anomaly, and hopefully it stays an anomaly.
Agreed. Again, it's very rare in a divisional schedule where you see a team twice in 3 weeks, right? Like, that's almost it's not an often thing. It happens every once in a while, but it's not an often thing, right? You see the Bears and the Lions early in the season, and literally the Lions, you almost get it the complete bookends of the football season, week 2 and then week 18, right? Vikings was week 1, and then what was that, week 11, I believe, was when they played the second time. So it's, there was enough time where the offense evolves and things like that. The offense doesn't evolve much in 3 weeks. Like, I just couldn't call it what it is. So definitely agree with you there, Samir. I think well put. I will note this, just a quick little story here, gentlemen, before we get to our third key to victory. The bad beat of the century for me yesterday was the DeAndre Swift 60-plus rushing yards bet, only for him to finish with 58. That was a bad beat. That one hurt. I'm not going to lie. But to your point, Samir, very gutsy performance from DeAndre Swift. And really, I think a guy who, we all love Ben Johnson. We all love Al Harris. We all love Antoine Randall. Eric Bieniemy cannot go understated of how important he is to this offense, right? Just what he demands of the running backs in that room. Why Monangai has grown so quickly as a late round pick, and settled in, into this offense. And DeAndre Swift really, we all knew DeAndre Swift was a good player, but DeAndre Swift really never elevated to that level I think a lot of people thought he would coming out of Georgia. This is probably the closest we've actually seen to that with DeAndre Swift, of he is a true workhorse back, and he's doing the little things that I think in years past that we wouldn't really see him, do. So I think that's, critically important over the long term here for the Chicago Bears. Gentlemen, the final key to victory: step on their throat and let Caleb be Superman. I'll tell you what, they did a great job with the second part. Not so much the first part. They didn't really step on their throats, at least not often, or at least not early. But they did late. They took advantage of it, right? They took the points. They got the onside. You stepped on their throat with 24 seconds left to really deflate their sails. The momentum was in your favor. They botched the snap on fourth down. You stop them. One possession, that's all we needed. And, the most beautiful part, to sum this up, everybody that I was sitting in the room watching it with was saying, just get in the field goal range and let Cairo do his thing. And the Bears said, we're going to stick it right up their ass. We're going for it. We're going to step on that throat. And we're going to let Caleb be Superman. And he was Superman, because that throw, mind you, I think a lot of people kind of forgot this because we're all so infatuated with the throw and catch. He's getting hit as he throws that football too. And just lays it all out there to, again, stick it up their ass and make sure they remembered this one a little bit. There was some salt in that wound. And Ben Johnson dialed that up and went, you know what? Fuck it. If it hits, it's going to be awesome. And then
I think he was playing the coverage, right? Because they were playing a lot of that single look, cover zero towards the end of that game because they were trying to fluster Caleb. So I think Ben was waiting for that look. And like you said, he does everything for a reason. Even if you're just oh, that didn't make, he's just testing. He's testing to see how that defense is going to react so that he can file it away for later. And I think DJ talked about it. It's we ran that in practice because we saw something in their coverages and we kind of had to wait for it to pop up with the look that we wanted. And DJ said, he's I knew I was going to get that ball when that was snapped because of the look that they were getting. And that's just great coaching all around, right? So to your point, Ron, it's not accidental that some of these things happen. Now, was there good fortune involved? Sure. You get a face mask on 3rd and 20. That kind of breaks for you a little bit. But to Raul's point, Bears got lucky. There's a million things that happen in every football game, right, that you can point to. Early on, the Packers got the benefit of 2 early whistles before fumbles, where you're just come on, man, let the play continue. The Bears would have gotten the ball, right? So just things like that happen in a football game. So don't feel sorry or don't feel bad for taking those little victories when they come.
Indeed. Well said. Sonny, anything you want to add?
No, just as you guys were recapping these keys to the game, and we're kind of smiling and laughing about how they didn't really accomplish any of them, and yet the Chicago Bears won against the Green Bay Packers, a very good football team. And again, that has to make you feel good about the trajectory of where this team is headed. That even when really smart people tell you that these are the keys to win this really tough matchup against a heated rival that you have. None of those were accomplished, and yet the team was still there to make the plays that they needed to make and come out on the victorious end of this game. It just has me thinking that, again, I opened up the show saying this team is just never out of it. And even when you shut them down at what they do best, they still find a way to win. And I can genuinely say I don't remember the last time I was able to say that about a team I rooted for.
Yeah, you're right. You're 100% right. And a great comment here from a little bit earlier as well from BCJ that I want to share. I haven't seen Soldier Field that vibrant in a long time. Yeah, they were popping. I knew a few people in attendance last night, and I texted one of them after that game, and I said, just tell me what that moment was like. Here, I'll pull up the relay. It was 2 quick messages. I asked him, I said, dude, how sick was that live? And all I got in response was not even real, man. Pure jubilation from the Soldier Field faithful when it's all said and done. Gentlemen, before I let you guys go and we wrap up and get into our stress-free football Sunday here, now that the Bears have already taken care of business on Saturday night, I do want to talk a little bit just kind of what's at stake today. We really didn't get into that too much in this show, so I want to kind of round that out here with, again, there's only 2 weeks of football, at least for the Bears, left to the season. Of course, week 16 now will wrap up after Monday Night Football this week. So the Bears took care of business. That was key point number 1 for this game. The Bears can clinch a playoff spot. So just not to confuse anybody, it's not the NFC North just yet. It's weird when you have 3 really good NFC North teams in a season, and one of them are the Bears, and one of them are the Detroit Lions. When's the last time we could fucking say that? But the Bears can clinch a playoff spot, which means no matter what, they're at least in the dance. If the Lions lose or tie with the Pittsburgh Steelers today, I believe that's a noon game as well. So I'm sure a lot of Bears fans will be keeping an eye on that one. With Red Zone, I'm sure everybody will be peeking over to that game as well. From there, then it becomes, okay, now if the Lions have lost and the Packers have lost, the Bears, I believe then against San Francisco, I'm not for sure, but I think a win against San Fran can lock up the division. I think that's how that shakes out. But again, the Lions need to lose today. That's a critical first step to everything. And then again, there's a chance that game against the Lions in week 18 could be for a division title, or at least for, a guarantee of the NFC North and not a share, depending on how the next 2 weeks go for both the Packers and Lions. So again, it's going to be fascinating to keep an eye on and watch. But the first step they took care of business. That was key number 1 here in week 16. A Lions loss or tie today means the Bears at least clinch a playoff spot. So we know there will be extra football. We just don't know where, and we don't know when. And then I saw a comment in there as well about the 1 seed. Need a lot of help. Very comfortably is Seattle in that 1 seed right now. Los Angeles can certainly take that 1 seed as well. There is a lot of, what's to kind of come in terms of shaking out of the 1 seed. But that's going to be fascinating as well, because if the Bears keep winning football games, they got a chance at that 1 seed. And that's what, Sonny, you mentioned talking about this point. So let's talk that out. Do you think this Bears team benefits more from a week off, or just keeping the fucking gas rolling and playing a game right away in the first round of the playoffs? Because I have my thoughts. I want to hear from both of you, though, in terms of how I think this team would operate. Sonny, you mentioned wanting to talk about it, so I'll let you lead this one off. What say you on the bye week versus non-bye week?
I want the bye week, and simply because there are a lot of games in particular this season that we're not necessarily winning comfortably. We are producing magic, and so I don't want to have to do that every single week. Give me the bye week. Let me get to the next round. I don't want to expound energy doing it. Give me a break. Let one of the other teams knock each other out. And I'd rather have a magic moment 3 weeks in a row, 4 weeks in a row, as opposed to keep doing it 5 weeks. So all it takes is going to be one game where the ball doesn't quite break your way, or a guy isn't in the right place at the right time, and all of a sudden you're sent home. I really like this football team. I can't say that enough. I'm really excited about the future of it. I don't know if it's one of the 4 best teams in the NFL right now. And so just for that reason alone, for me, it's like the less opportunities to have a bad game, give me that route. And so give me the bye week.
I like that. I like that analysis there. Samir, do you agree?
I do agree. And I can see the argument for, hey, let's keep the train moving. These guys don't know any better. Let's just keep it going, right? Let's not let them overthink this. But I think if you're getting the bye week, that's 1 week later into winter that you're going to be at Soldier Field. And the way that the Bears play, I think it's going to be advantageous for them against no matter who they're playing against, to have that game in Soldier Field when it's colder, windier, nastier out. I think that favors the Bears. Also, I think Ben Johnson's one of those coaches that you give him an extra week to prepare for an opponent, he's going to find ways to exploit something there. So I think that helps. And then obviously the third part, as we all know, this team is banged up, with receivers and cornerbacks and things of that sort. So I think that does give them a little bit of time to heal up as well. So I think that I would absolutely welcome a bye week, and it's stress-free playoff watching football for that first week. That's always fun.
That is always fun. And yeah, you can only game plan so far in advance because you don't know how things are going to shake out too. So it really is just kind of a stress-free week. And, maybe they start looking at, who they could potentially play, and it's okay. We'll analyze this, we'll analyze that a little bit. And then it's once obviously those games are complete, then they turn the Jets on and really begin their game planning process. I agree. I think the biggest piece for me, as selfishly, is I think, sometimes just keeping the train running works. I think back to, unfortunately, what happened to the Lions last year in Ben Johnson's final year as OC was Commanders come out of nowhere and upset them at their own place as the number 1 seed. So maybe that's still kind of lingering in the back of my mind just a tad. But to your guys' point, I think the injury aspect of it is the biggest one, right? Like there are very notably guys banged up on this roster that are playing through things that would get an extra week of rest, and that would be huge, I think, for the fortune of this team and in a potential playoff run when it's all said and done. Scott from Iowa summed it up perfectly here as well, gentlemen. I waited until everybody was done. Bears win out. San Francisco has to beat Seattle. If that all happens, the Bears get the number 1 seed. So a lot of work to be done. It's going to be a fun next 2+ I'll call it plus weeks, because we still have a lot of games to play today and then on Monday. But gentlemen, I want to just quickly throw this out into the stratosphere. We'll be back in some capacities over the course of the next week. Obviously, there will be another Bears game next week to talk about as well. There's a lot of football also coming up on Christmas Day. There's 3 games this year on Christmas Day, which is a lot of fun. It's Thursday, so I mean, it kind of fits. It's almost like a Thanksgiving day in a lot of ways. But happy holidays to everybody, no matter what you celebrate. It's just that time of the year. I hope everybody has safe holidays, healthy holidays, and hopefully it's a lot of celebration about your Chicago Bears as well, talking with the family and jarring about football when it's all said and done. Guys, this was fun. It's always fun to come live, the next day. This is reminiscent, Samir, you mentioned it, right, of what we did after the Philadelphia Eagles game on Black Friday. We went live on Saturday morning, going live on Sunday morning after a Bears win on Saturday night. Pretty cool. And, it just so happened to be against the Green Bay Packers. And so this is one that'll probably be rewatched a few times. I'd be lying to you if I said it wasn't going to be when it's all said and done. But a great show and a great game nonetheless, gentlemen. Bears win 22-16. I don't really care what the score was. Just the Bears win, and that's what really matters most. Gentlemen, what do you guys say? We get out here, as always, with a good old bear down.
Happy holidays, everyone. Bear down.
Happy holidays. Bear down. Let's go.